Hi, my name is Zara. I am a midwifery clinical tutor, and I work at a local hospital maternity unit and at a local university. So, my case study, it's looking at individualised care planning. So this is based from a lady that I worked with when I was in my community days. So I have called her Lisa for this. It was not her first baby, so P1 means that she had a parity of one, so she has had one baby before, and she had had a previous SVD, so that's a spontaneous vaginal delivery. So she'd had a previous vaginal birth with no complications. She did, however, have a history of eating disorders. And she had a history of and ongoing mental health and was currently medicated on a variety of medications for that. It was mainly anxiety, but it was a little bit of a mix in there. She, however, had no other medical or obstetric history, so pregnancy history of note, so nothing else that we needed to take into consideration. So her background, the background for this case. So I was working as a community midwife for her GP surgery, so I was linked to the surgery she was registered at. Lisa, she does not follow the standard approach for fundal height measurement. So as I said earlier about us measuring their tummy, their bump to keep an eye on baby's growth, our standard approach at the time was using a personalised growth chart, which involved needing to take their weight, their height, you'd take in their ethnicity, you'd put in any previous baby weights, all these little bits of information about them, and that would get them a personalized growth chart. So you'd be able to see if a baby was growing too big for that person or too small. So someone that is 6 foot tall then weighs a lot more would be it would be very easy for them to have a bigger baby than someone who is 5 foot and weighs 50 kilos having the same sized baby, and vice versa. A baby that would be normal for that 5 foot 50 kilo person would be too small, and we'd be worried about the growth for someone who was much larger of a person. So because of Lisa's history of eating disorders, she did not want to be weighed because that could trigger her. So she hadn't been suffering actively with her eating disorder for some time, but she knew that if she was weighed and she knew how her weight was, that would help, that would start to trigger her eating disorder, which she wanted to avoid. So we couldn't use our customized growth charts. We had to use the old school version, which was a standard growth chart, which in whole our trust did not use. I'd gone on annual leave, and Lisa had seen another midwife at my surgery for one appointment. This midwife was not aware of the full extent of the history for Lisa, and that we had used this plan before, and was not happy to just measure on the old chart. So therefore had tried to refer in for growth scans, refer to consultant appointments, and caused a big cascade of events, which for Lisa affected her mental health. So I came back and had some messages from her, and she was quite distraught and very upset. She was hoping to plan for a home birth for this baby, and felt like she was being bullied out of it by procedures and policies, which was our standard approach rather than her individualized care. So support that I gave to Lisa. So we moved to enhanced care. So that involved home visits. So she would not be seen in the GP surgery. So I wouldn't go on leave for a week and not realise she was booked in for that clinic on that date. So she would be in my diary, where I would see her on my working days as my home visits. So therefore, it was that full continuity of care, which was perfectly appropriate for this person. So we did some outreach to her mental health team because she wasn't due to have any contact with them for a little while. So we spoke to them to get them to put a little bit of extra support in place for her in the meantime. And then I had all the lovely discussions with our consultant midwife and our obstetric team to kind of stand down all the referrals that were being made, saying, actually, we've got this plan in place for her. A consultant midwife agreed that, yes, that was appropriate and we didn't need any further support. So there was a little bit of that MDT approach, so involving her mental health team, our consultant midwife, and our obstetric team in all of those decisions to make sure everybody was happy with our plan going forward. So, like as I said, that multidisciplinary working. So for Lisa, she had input from our community mental health team, our obstetric team, our consultant midwife, the wider community midwifery team, so the rest of my team, and our community teams that were linked to the hospital, because she was planning for a home birth. So we had to make sure that all of our teams um, were aware of her individualized plan in case it wasn't one of us that went out to her home birth, but it was someone else, and her GP as well, to make sure that they were aware because of her medications that she was on, to make sure that they were aware of the full picture in case anything came up in any of their reviews. So the outcome for Lisa was a lovely one. So she continued with her enhanced midwifery care at home with me. She then gave birth at home at 41 weeks, so she thinks she was very close to 42 weeks. Her growth all throughout on our measurements was tracking appropriately for her, and she had a healthy, proportionately sized baby for her. So we had no problems with the growth of this baby. We did not have a baby that was too small or too large and caused any issues. We did have towards the end, she was getting to close to the time where we'd be thinking about induction of labour and referring to the hospital. So we started having discussions about what would we do if we got to that point. So a lot of the enhanced care for Lisa was communication and managing expectations and making sure she knew, okay, so next time I see you, if you're still pregnant, then this is going to be the discussions we're going to have. Here's some information so you can read about it before we have that discussion, so I'm not overloading you with information all in one go. She did have her baby, I think, the day before I was about to see her for that last appointment where we were going to have to start making more individualized care planning, talking about that induction. So she got that baby just before. Again, no issues during birth. So we had a lovely home birth in the pool. So all went really, really lovely. And postnatally, baby grew really well, feeding went really well. And for her mental health, all of that was all lovely. And we didn't have any relapses or any further referrals that we needed to make throughout that postnatal period. And to top it all off, she went on to have her third baby under my care again as a home birth. And again, we followed the same individualized care planning for her with the old school growth protocol. And again, we had no issues with her third baby either. So if we hadn't had that individualized care and she had just gone with the routine, the outcomes potentially could have been different for her specifically. And so this is one of those cases that points out how important it is to look at every person and holistically, and look at all of their background, all of their wants and needs, and making that plan with them and involving them in that plan, rather than going, well, this is our protocol, this is our procedure, this is what we normally do, so you have to stick to that. Whereas midwifery is one of those careers where we are massively looking at our individualized care planning to really make the best outcomes that we can for our women, birthing people, their babies, and the family as a whole.